Well, I'll be honest, I am a completely fresh set of eyes to the Fortify program. I
Okay.
have not been in there implementing it at all. I do understand the checklist nature of it, and I
Hmm.
understand a lot of the UI improvements are still kind of in the work on um, how those checklists map out to all the security settings and
Yep.
policies and
Yep.
presenting that to the client.
Yep.
Um, right now, as far as I know, we are only actively moving forward with our own tenant at the moment, but
Okay.
that could be likely to change very quickly, it seems.
Okay. Yeah, and I will talk into that. What about JP Gerald? What are your thoughts? Anything specifically that you want to make sure I cover?
Uh,
Uh, I
Uh,
already started to study all this checklist, and since I think it's very much to do or anything
Okay.
want to discuss
Okay.
hands on dealing with the checklist, and I understand the flow.
Okay.
But in case if there's a other way to get
There may be
more
a way that
or
you're not
easy to
aware of
catch up,
yet that I'm hoping I can fill in for you. So,
yeah, because I
okay.
don't have yet question, but when you this,
Okay. Yeah. Let me. I'm logging into a couple of things right now that I'm going to make sure that you all have access to. Uh, uh, Gerald, anything specific for you?
no, for me, actually, I didn't touch so much regarding on Fortify. It was JP who was deploying for our
mm.
tenant.
So okay,
Yeah,
it's all JP's fault then. Okay, that's what I'm
yeah,
hearing.
Well, he's been there since the beginning of it and seen the most changes.
yeah. One of the
Gerald and
changes.
I, fresh eyes.
All right, we'll blame it all on JP. I have no problem with that. Okay. Um, so let's get started here. So I'm going to start just foundationally. I'm going to talk about customer story first because it's obviously customer experience, and this is how we're talking about it. And so I'm going to switch to this screen, and I'm going to switch cameras off of this one over to this one, and then we'll get going. Um, so in general, so the from a customer journey perspective, the what we typically do when it comes to a customer is we don't talk about the product, and we do talk about the process. But when I say product, I mean like your Microsoft licensing, or because from a salesperson's perspective, you want to talk about solutions and problems, solutions to the problems. And but last thing you want to say, hey, I want you to buy this antivirus software, or I want you to buy this backup software. Those are the conversations that we try not to have because we want to just have business conversations. And so the business conversations that we're having today are really around AI. Surprise, surprise. And questions that we ask customers are things like, we know your employees are using AI. Would you like to know what they're doing with your data? Right? And most employers are going to go, yeah. Another question that we'll ask is, um, are you 100% confident that employees cannot synchronize your business data to any device that they want and walk off with it? And most business owners are going to go, I don't know. Right? And so these are the kind of conversations we have that are business conversations for the customer. But what it comes down to from the foundational basics of IT security are these two things: is if you do not have control over the identities and devices that are accessing your data, you don't have control of your data. Pretty simple, really, if you think about it. And so that is where we start. We start, hey, let's just make sure we're foundationally in place. And foundationally to be secure, that means that you could have lower cost cyber insurance. And then and foundational security, cyber insurance companies are looking for these foundational basics that we have in place. Obviously, we focus on Microsoft first because Microsoft has like the best telemetry data in the world. I think one of the last statistics I read was they process over 100 trillion events per day, or data. That's a lot. And that's why all the major cybersecurity vendors, of which there's a couple thousand out there, all partner with Microsoft. CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, all these guys all partner with Microsoft because Microsoft has the best data. And so we, as an MSP, when in the MSPs I work with, a lot of them will focus on, the basics. And Business Premium is an example of a small business license that we want everyone to have. But there are things around that customers need to fill in that that Microsoft doesn't cover. Obviously, they don't do they do backup, but that really sucks, and it's not cheap. But backup, obviously, managed detection response. We know that most attacks today, I think I heard a statistic recently of about 70% attacks completely bypass the EDR today, your traditional antivirus. So you need an MDR solution sitting on top of that, like Blackpoint Cyber or something like that. Share gapping, that is something where we say, hey, you can treat your Microsoft 365 environment like a file server in a data center. No one has access to it except your employees, and you can do that. And then use an external system to do file sharing. And so we'll have conversations around that with customers through the process. Secure web browsing, like the DefenseX is the primary product we use there. And the reason we do that is because, well, most of your attacks are going to involve a click or someone entering a username and password in some website somewhere. And DefenseX does real-time protection on those types of events and a whole bunch of other things. If you want to find out what your employees are doing with AI, DefenseX, and just deploy the agent and it'll show you every website, every file upload that's going on. You can even log their chat prompts with DefenseX. So pretty cool. And then password managers, don't use a password manager in your browser. That's probably a weak link that most people don't think about. And then share monitoring. What are your employees doing with your data? From who are they sharing it with, right? That kind of activity. Because Microsoft doesn't have that kind of visibility in their dashboards to really show you what your users are doing. But Business Premium with the Defender Suite is kind of our starting point. We want the customers to have AI security tools to prevent AI attacks. If you don't have the right tools, you're just an event waiting to happen. That's where we talk to customers about their basic and standard licensing. It's like, you have no protections. I mean, your door may be locked because you've got an EDR on it, but all your windows are open, So that's the type of conversations we have about security and protecting the business and protecting the data. And they said, well, then the customer will go, well, what do I need? And I said, well, you need this licensing, and we're going to do a security project on you. We don't have to call it Fortify. We just say it's a security project. And we're going to go through, and with all these new tools that you have, they need to be configured. And we have a process that has several hundred configurations in it. We're not going to, I'm not going to sit here and show you all the configurations unless you really, really want to see them. But what I will show you is measurable results, right? That we have moved the needle, and I'll show you a couple examples of that. And then, so that's kind of the approach that we take. In the background, we're following an industry standard framework. We're following CIS 18. So as you're doing these security projects, you're actually taking the customer down the road of being more secure in alignment with a framework. When you look at the Fortify checklist, if you go over to the right-hand side, you'll see columns for IG 1, 2, and 3 right there. That's all CIS 18, Microsoft Secure Score. CMMC, if you want to get all the way into the NIST 800-171 stuff. And I have a major update coming for the Fortify checklist, which is going to actually expand it a little bit. And it's going to add some more of these other columns for CSF 2.0, NIST 800-171, CMMC, and all the latest updated CS18 things you're going to see coming here in a little bit. So what's the Fortify process? What you've probably seen is this: F1, 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's evolved, and you are the first ones that are going to see that level. Well, actually, you're not the first, but you're the first ones I'm really presenting it to. Is the really the new process. It doesn't change what you're doing today. This is just how we engage the customer differently. And instead of 4 steps, it's really 6 steps now. And we've consolidated F1 and F2 into the first step. What we found in doing these projects and other MSPs is these first 2 steps, F1 and F2, they get combined a lot together. And as an MSP, there's a lot of product purchases that occur at this level. And so what we're finding that makes the most sense is you sell your customer a cybersecurity package, and within that package is all these tools. And these tools will carry you through all of the Fortify projects. So you don't have to keep going back to the customer and saying, oh, by the way, you need to buy another tool, right? That's the last thing we want to do. So if we can bundle it all together right out of the gate, that's the best. Now, some customers are going to say, I don't have the ability to purchase this stuff. I'm not budgeted for this stuff. I want to do security and I want to make myself more secure, but I'm not budgeted. And that is totally fine. We can still do a security project, but we'll be limited to the licenses that you have, right? If you don't have Entra ID P2, we can't do Entra ID P2 stuff. If you don't have Intune, we can't do Intune things, right? We can't do those types of things. So that's the, and you'll notice in the Fortify checklist now there's a license column. And that license column tells you which license you have to be able to do this project. What we've run into is customers that will have one, let's say, Entra ID P2 license for 100 users. Well, obviously that's an illegal purchase. You can't do that, right? Every user has to be licensed for that level. And we actually have a new licensing tool that was just released. And I think I've got it here. Yeah. This license expert tool that we just released, and you can come in here, and you guys, I think, already have an account in here that was already set up. Yeah. So you've already got an account in here. So Brian's already, all logged in for the very first time as an admin. So you guys have access to this, and this may be helpful for you. And if you just go to m365licenseexpert.com, and I'll put this link in the chat for you. Chat. Where are you? There you are. You can actually log into this website right now. You'll be automatically set up as a viewer, and I can flip you to a standard user or an admin once you're logged in. But what this will do is you can come in here and you can add a customer's tenant to this environment. Just click Add New Tenant, and then Authorize with Global Admin. And I'll show you another way that you can do this. And I'll show you the DuraCyber tenant. But what this will do is we'll show you all the customers' licensing that they have in here. You can put their own pricing in if you want to do that. It shows when the licenses expire and all that good stuff. And if there's disabled licenses, I'll give you an example what that looks like. If there's disabled licenses, you'll see those, they're disabled and when their renewal dates are and all that stuff. But the cool part about this is it will also show you all their secure score stuff. So if you want to come in here before a project starts, and you're doing the F1 component, which is the identity piece, you can come in here and take a screen capture of their identity score and do a before and after, right? That way you can show them the real progress. You can take a screen capture of the secure score and show them you can take a screen capture of this whole thing, right? And just show them where they're at this particular point in time. We also show in here all the risky apps that they have installed and why they're risky. and what permissions that they have and who added it to the platform. So this is another talking point from a risk perspective with customers that we've added. And then if there's any foreign country logins, we'll be able to see those foreign sign-ins also. In here, you'll also see all of the any remediations that need to be done from a secure scores perspective. So if you want to drive secure score numbers, this is one way that you can help do it, that you don't have to log into the Microsoft tenant to go do that. The license analysis tool, we also have an AI license analysis tool in here. So you can come in here, and this tool, you can actually, if you go back to the tenants here, there's a button. You can click license analysis, that button right there, and it will trigger a license analysis over here and create a project and automatically do a AI license analysis review, and then kick out these reports. And so we were talking about license violations. This will show the customer if they have any license violations within their environment and what the cost of those violations are. So it's a really powerful tool when you're talking about licensing. And also there's an Excel spreadsheet with all the user details of where they're at, where we recommend them to be. So this will drive customers to those business premium licenses and the like. So cool little tool. So if you want to jump into it, just let me know. But that's why in this F1, F2 process, we say, hey, really do those together as a bundled project, because they really work together, and it's really your seatbelts and airbags. So what we did is when we re-architected the way this framework goes and changed to 6 steps, F1 and F2 is really done in this first circle, the security foundations, identities, and devices. One thing that I'll mention here is, and because I get this question all the time, is related to Intune, is the way Fortify is designed is that it's supposed to be, especially this first circle, this F1, F2 projects, it's supposed to be very low impact. The biggest impact thing in here for most businesses will be turning on MFA if they don't have it turned on. And we put Intune policies in place, right? We activate Defender for Endpoint, but we don't assign those Intune policies to anything unless we want to. So as an MSP, there's a decision point to make. If it's a fully managed customer, yeah, absolutely. Activate Defender for Endpoint, throw the Intune policies in for Defender for Endpoint that we provide you, or create your own and activate them, right? Get them turned on, get them running. If it's a co-managed customer, they may not want that. So that's a question you have to ask. When it comes to Defender for Endpoint or deploying any software, because remember, we're pushing software out a lot of times like DefenseX or Blackpoint Cyber or things like that. We've got to have an RMM tool in place, right? So we got to have remote management. So if they're a fully managed customer, obviously you're going to have your RMM tool in there. But if you're a co-managed customer, you may not have the RMM tool in there, and you may have to temporarily deploy the RMM tool to actually push these software packages out there. So there's going to be some potential user impacting pieces, but you're going to have to really look at it on a customer by customer basis on how you want to address some of these things, because you may not be selling some of these products into this customer at this time, but like I said, if they could say, hey, I don't have the budget to it, but I want to do the security piece of it, or they're not licensed for it. But obviously having an RMM in place is something you want to have. But like I said, Intune is really kind of a fine line as an MSP, is how you want to address Intune and configuration policies and different types of things like that. It's not user impacting really to deploy Defender for Endpoint. There's a couple, when you get into conditional access policies, there's a couple, and we'll talk about them, you have to be really, really careful with. And I've got some warnings now that you'll see in the checklist that I talk about, though, especially the FIDO2 stuff. So that's that. And this second circle is now the old F3. And this is really a research project. This is an analysis project. Basically, what we're doing is we're coming in here and saying, okay, what are your employees doing? And and let me stop here. A lot of MSPs are only going to do this first circle. They're going to do F1 and F2 and they're going to stop. But I'm going to give you the high level of the rest of these so you see how they all work together. And then I'll open it up for questions, and then I'll jump into the Fortify checklist and I'll show you how that all works. But so the second one is really saying, okay, what are employees doing with my data? What devices are we allowing to sync data to? And then asking the business a bunch of business questions. And I've got this whole list of business questions that we ask a customer. I also have an engineering guide for these next couple of projects that I could share with you. But really, this one's a discovery and a consultative project. There's not any real. They may throw some in, sensitivity labels or things at this point, and we've got pre-built ones already. But there's not a lot that you're going to do that's net new, pushing software around. I think it's really what are the employees doing with the data, and how can we prevent data leakage? Because here we're trying to identify where all the leakage possibilities are and what's occurring. And then we engage the customer with that conversation, and the next step, which is this one, implementing controls for devices of data, this is where you put those controls in place. So the second project, you do the discovery, they make some business decisions, which then defines this next project. Are we going to really deploy Intune and use it? Are we going to really prevent bring your own device, personal devices, from connecting and syncing data, meaning they can only use the web browser, and the IT department or the MSP controls what computers are allowed to sync, right? They have to be Intune managed compliant devices to be able to use OneDrive. Phones, mobile devices, you have an app protection policy in place, gets pushed out. So this project here is very user impacting, but it's all based off of decisions that are made in the second project. Then you get into this project, F4, is this is an AI readiness project. Where does sensitive information live within the environment? HIPAA, PCI, HR data, financial data. Where does this sit? Let's get it organized to make sure it's in a safe place so you feel comfortable about adding AI to your environment and giving AI access to your data. But at the same time, let's also make sure we get the old data out. Use something like AvePoint Opus to archive anything out, because with AI, it's a searching and response tool. And if it's searching and seeing old data, it's going to muddy the response. So if you want good responses, you've got to have good data. And so archiving comes into play in that project. The next two are pretty quick. The 5 is AI training, and I've got an AI training program that I can show you what that looks like. It's a 1-hour program. And then 6 is agentic, getting into agents and helping customers with agents. So, like I said, most MSPs are not going to do 2 through 6. They're just going to be on number 1, our old identities and device piece. But we know customers are using AI, and if you really want to help your customers with AI, you've got to have these AI conversations out here at 5 and 6, which drives into all this other stuff around data security and data control and data governance. So I'll stop there. What questions might you have from that? Anything? Did you learn anything new?
Yeah, I have a lot to learn because my approach is different from now. It's easy to understand now the concept.
Okay. Does it help to really understand kind of what that flow looks like and how that works in that
Yeah.
conversation? Yeah. Yeah. That's why I was telling Brian and Alan, I said, man, I need to talk to your guys. Put me in front of your guys, let me train them and get you guys up to speed. So it's a different flow completely, and I'm more than happy to share this. Brian, I don't think Brian or Alan have even seen this new flow yet.
They have not, and I know at least Brian and John need to at this point.
Yeah. So this recording will be helpful for them. I'll put it up on YouTube as an unlisted link, and I'll share that out with you guys, and you can watch it to our heart's content. So that's that. So now I'm going to keep going. I'm going to move back over here and put you guys back over here on this screen, and then I'm going to share my screen again and get back into it. When you're starting projects, always take screen captures of where you're starting out from a secure score perspective, and then the identity score. So if you're in Entra, and let me go in here, and also we have a Microsoft 365 tenant. I'm in it right now. This is what I'm showing you. This tenant is let's see here. This tenant is our baseline tenant. This is the one that is synchronized to Enforcer. This is where all the policies are coming from Enforcer. And so our Fortify baseline is configured in here. And I can give you global reader access to this tenant, because if you want to see how something is configured, how we've done something, it's here. Okay? So you can come and you can look at a configuration and see how we actually do it. And then let's see, where is, oh, they've moved it. Great.
Again, yep. I was about to say.
Identity. Where is the identity protection overview? So, is it that one? I'm looking for the identity score. Well, basically what I'm looking for is this right here, the identity. There's a place where Enforcer shows it. That's a good place to go look at it. So Enforcer, see the secure score here? There's an identity score that you can take a screen capture of. And so what I'm saying is basically, before you start your projects, make sure you capture whatever the identity score is. Okay? Screen capture that. Because the F1 project, the old, what we call F1 project, and we still label it that way in the checklist, you're going to significantly move F1. So even if they're on basic or standard licensing, you're going to move identity significantly. It's typically in the 40 to 60% range is what we see. Normally, the identity scores are going to jump up into the 80s. And so you can show a customer real measurable movement. The device score, you would think, when you were talking identities and devices, naturally you would think, oh, I'm going to move device also, right? No, you're not really going to move device. The reason you're not going to move device is because you're not implementing all the Intune policies and all the Defender for Endpoint policies, right? That you're going to have when it comes to device scores. Let's go secure score and recommendations, and close that pane. So if I were to go here and filter, right, and I just say I want to look, well, I don't have device on this particular tenant because there are no devices attached to that tenant. Device will only appear when you activate Defender for Endpoint. So this is an E5 licensed tenant, but obviously I don't have device here because I don't have any activated devices. But when you do, you're gonna have all those things to do. And the other thing I'll mention here, since I'm sitting right here, is as you're doing these projects and you want to move that secure score, okay, some things you're going to remediate. For example, and this is a great example, this very first one, ensure multi-factor authentication is enabled for all users and administrative roles. Well, I have a conditional access policy in place with all of that enabled. However, what's best practice? Break glass account. What do you do with a break glass account? Exclude MFA. Okay. So, and then you're going to have service principal accounts or other types of accounts, a copier, an account that's used for copiers, right? For doing documents. via email. You're going to have exclusions. And so that's why these ensure multi-factor authentication for all users. And this, see, I have this alternate mitigation. I did an alternate mitigation on this because internally, that's our policy. We've accepted that risk. So I've gone in here, set those as alternate mitigation. So I'm achieving the points that I want to achieve, and I'm moving that secure score number to a higher number. Okay. And I'm doing it, obviously, this is for identity. So as you're doing these projects, make sure you're going through and doing secure score and reading these things. And that's why I included it over here, right? And so you can see what you need to do. And this is not a good example. Let me go back over to here. So you can see what you need to mitigate from a secure score perspective. And you can come in here and you can say, okay, hey, this is what I need to mitigate, right? And so you can kind of track it here, or you can track it in the individual tenant. The nice thing is here is I can put all of my customers' tenants in here and track all of them in one place. And I can see all of their secure scores in one place. So this is kind of you can do this in Enforcer too in a similar way. But the mitigation pieces are all here. So I just want to mention that piece, right, from a secure score perspective of how you're going through this. Let's see. So that's the Fortify Guardian tenant that is available to you. And like I said, I can give you global reader access so you can see everything that is configured and how this baseline works. Because when you come into Enforcer and you're looking at the policies that are within here, right? Let me go to Align and look at the baseline. You're going to see, those are the Enforcer baselines. So this is the Fortify baseline that's in here. So you're gonna see the baseline that's in here. Let's go into Fortify Guardian. That's the baseline tenant. Now look at policies, and then in here under policies, you'll notice that everything is tagged F1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth that aligns with the baseline tenant. I need to go in here and do a little bit of updating because we've got some changes that occur. Enforcers are constantly releasing things. Obviously, it's not loading super fast. There it goes. But you'll notice that the policies are all tagged. F3, this is SharePoint OneDrive. This is user impacting, right? So they're all tagged according to the checklist. And I like these impact reports now that Enforcer's brought in so you can actually see what the impact is. And if you want to have the customer conversation, you can, because when you go to the customer and say, hey, I need to ask you a few questions about impact before I enable this, you can have that conversation with a customer. But back to my point here is make sure you're capturing screenshots along the way. And I don't know if you're using Cloud Capsule or not, but do a Cloud Capsule benchmark also. Capture that also so you have the befores and afters as you go. So let's jump into the checklists and take a look at that. Let's see, Enforcer, where are we at? Guardian, okay, yeah, this is yours. Okay, so this is, so I'm in here looking at you guys, and let's go down to Agilitec here. And we got one project, and we'll look at that baseline. We'll give this as an example here. We'll look at the checklist. So let me tell you how this baby is structured. And I'm going to do a collapse all on this. So way that we structure this is from easiest to hardest. Okay. And then obviously by the filters. So it's really what we call a top-down approach. I'm going to turn this filter off real quick. And we've got 713 controls. There's going to be a bunch more controls that get added as we get into the project. But like you've already seen, you can filter by project. And I'm not going to really renumber these right now to these new 6 ones. I'm going to leave them as is for the moment. These advanced ones, these are really things that you can do, they're more technical, they can be more impacting. It's really your choice to do them. I put them there. So if you want to do F1 and F1 Advanced, you can see where some of these advanced things are, like admin account, 16 character passwords, blah, blah, blah. These are not necessarily in the secure score. They may be associated with CIS 18 in some way. Like these over here, you can see they're associated with CIS 18, but they're in the advanced category. So if you want to really do all the CS 18 stuff, you can. So that's where the advanced stuff is. The automation, manual enforcement, PowerShell Graph API. You're not going to see much in the Graph API stuff yet. I've got a lot of it already built. I just haven't published it yet. And then the enforcer and the manual stuff, that's pretty obvious. And then the impact, business decisions, user impacting, non-user impacting. Non-user impacting, we're very confident. I'm not saying it's always going to be perfect, but we're very confident most of these configurations a user's never going to notice, or if they do notice them, they're like, yeah, that's something new. Oh, look, there's a logo at time of login, or there's a new background, or I'm getting prompt for this, and it's not going to. It's something that's typically not going to generate a support ticket. That's the whole idea, is not to be generating support tickets in these first two projects. So, but that's what NUP is. User impacting. Yeah, the user's most likely going to see something going on. Okay, and it could be impacting. Like we just took the CEO of the company and put them in a group for advanced phishing protection set to aggressive. CEO might see that potentially, right? Because as you turn some of these tools on, when Microsoft licensing gets added, these new products, it takes a little while for them to learn the customer and learn what's normal and what's not normal, because it takes a little while for the AI to really learn what's going on. So, and then business decision is like, hey, what do we need to do here, right? You're gonna have a customer conversation with the BD stuff, and so I'm gonna do a little bit of filtering here and hide some of these columns temporarily, so we can have a little bit more of a conversation. So I'm gonna hide description, and I'm gonna hide scripts for right now. Actually, I'll leave scripts there for the moment. And then I'm going to get rid of Fortify. I'm going to turn IG1, 2, and I'm going to turn all these off. I'll turn Secure Score off. Turn Change Notes and Rationale off. And I'm going to hit Apply here. And that should narrow it up a little bit. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to talk about these columns a little bit. Everything has an item number, which is helpful. So if you run into a problem, hit me on Teams chat or whatever and say, hey, Mike, I have a question about AZ3. Just send me a chat and I'll do my best to answer the question on that. Matter of fact, let me go back to columns here. Yeah, license is turned on. Okay, good. So just, yeah, don't hesitate. These are obviously shortcut links that try to take you as close to the admin console as possible. If you see Microsoft change something or you can't find it, let me know. Let's find the right spot. Let's update the link. Everyone benefits. Customer question. These are, what do I ask my customer? Okay. And this is a new column that we added, I think was in December. It's like this one here, non-user impacting. You'll need to access the customer's DNS hosting. Here's one here. Here's a good one. Okay, talk to the customer. Try to find out if there's anything that still uses basic authentication within their environment. Typical examples are copiers or relay accounts. So if you're doing like a co-managed environment, right, and you really don't know all the accounts that they have and what they're doing, this is a question you're going to want to ask. And then I give some descriptions in here, like this one, GA14, idle session timeout. Affects environments with access requires users' computer to be managed and compliant with Intune. So there's some notes that I've added into here to help you out, and where to ask questions. Things that you've got to be careful about, and I'm going to clear these filters off. And I'm going to search for, under name, I think is where I'll search for it here. Let's see if I've got Fido. Yeah, so that's enable public authentication methods. Let's do resistant. Oh yeah, here we go. This is a fun one. So create a conditional access policy. User assignments, select users, workloads, blah, 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 blah. Warning, conditional access policy supports built-in conditional access policies are not enforced for all user types. Under exclude, choose. So this policy, I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is the, okay, here's the name. This is what I was getting to. Phishing resistant multi-factor authentication for administrators. Okay. I attached a warning to this one. Warning. Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, with this warning is, if you enable this policy, you don't have FIDO2 keys already for the administrators, you're going to lock yourself out of your tenant. Administrator. Okay. So these are certain things you've really got to be careful about as you're going through and reading these. I've seen MSPs actually do this where they go in, they enable this policy, and they don't have FIDO2 keys. However, because they have enforcer, they can reverse that policy because they can control the conditional access policies from here. So they've got a back door to protect themselves. So as you're going down this customer question list, if there's anything that you come across that may be a user impacting or a BD that is a business decision and you don't know what to ask the customer, reach out to me. We'll talk about it. We'll get you an answer and we'll put it in here for future. Okay. So don't hesitate to reach out. The license column, like I talked about earlier, if you're working on a customer and they're not licensed for Entra ID P1 or P2 and they only have free or basic, you're not going to be able to do this. Or if they're illegally licensed, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to want to have a customer conversation about licensing, right? Customer, hey, you're not licensed properly for this, for us to deploy it across all of your tenants because it's a tenant-wide activation. And if you run the license report over here on the customer, it talks about what those license violations are. I go down here, license violations. Here's the license violations and what they are. All users benefit from this and must be licensed, right? It's not something I can filter on or off based on a user group. So there's certain types of things you can't do with it, and because of that, if you want that feature, you want that functionality, you've got to be licensed for it, and customers may not know. So there's that. This projects note column is for you to enter any notes that you have in here, like I think it looks like you've been doing, right? So feel free to use these columns and do what you want to do here as you go through. Anything that is a yellow color, actually that one doesn't count, quality check, and there's not any recent updates. And you probably saw a bunch of yellow over the last couple of months appear through these rows. Okay. Those yellows are all changes that we're making to the environment, and then we make them visible to you for a good 30 days. I can't remember 30 or 60 days, but we want to make sure you know that there's changes going on. If there's anything that's significant that we want you to know about, you're going to have that change notes column, this column right here. I'll put a note in, right, of if it's anything that's major, okay, why I made that change or why we put that change in there. So that's where you're going to see all the yellow. You're going to see a bunch of yellow here, hopefully in the next 30 days, of a bunch of changes coming. Things, for example, one of the sections that we added late in Q4 was this Copilot section, right? We added all these Copilot settings in here, so you can configure these and have customer conversations as needed. And there's more that I need to come back and add into this. Expand all this back out again. Collapse all, expand all. There we go. So that's the way the checklist is designed to work from a top-down approach in partnership with Enforcer for policy configurations. Other ways that you can do it is just create the PowerShell scripts and automate these sections, right? As much as you can. I've got a lot of PowerShell scripts that are coming, but obviously you can use Claude Code is really good for PowerShell scripts and Graph API scripts. If you want to like create your own set of scriptings and do them in chunks, you can do that too. It's really up to you. Any questions on the checklists?
JP?
I think I get it all that stuff thing. So
Do we have the ability to export these checklists and or present them?
Yes, there's the print button right there.
PDF.
And just send it to a PDF.
I don't think that'd work really well if you're talking about customer deliverable. We've had customers ask about how all of these settings were changing map to IGP protocols.
Explain that one more time again.
So you see how in the checklist it will state in the column that it matches a certain IG protocol for security or the
Yeah.
CMCC.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
In that PDF document, it's not.
Turn those on.
But what I'm saying is it presenting that to a client when they ask about those mappings is a little hit or miss if we're talking just a PDF.
Yeah, I
know
can't.
most-
Yeah, well, we don't export this to CSV because it's our intellectual property.
Okay.
Okay, but we do allow you to print, and you can and present however you want to present. But basically, we typically don't. It depends on the customer. Some customers, they don't care about this, right?
Right.
The only thing that they want to see is that their security, they got more secure.
Right.
We'll bring this along the way, but this will be overwhelming, a lot of them. So what we'll do is we'll turn some of this stuff off, right? Okay. That they don't need to necessarily see, like customer questions, what license you need, who is assigned to, any project notes, any change notes. They're not going to need to see the Intune policy name. They may want to see what's aligned with Secure Score, Fortify, and that's all they may want to see. And you hit the print button, and they can see all of the progress that was complete, all the things that were done, right, and all the little notes that they want to do. So if they want to read through this, they're more than happy to. But it shows what you've accomplished for them, right? Hey, we did these, 300. We went through these 300 configuration policies for you. Right. And then the measurable is the secure score or whatever it is that's related to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that. Again, it came up while we were still in the middle of another client onboarding. They didn't stick around, but they kept, I guess you will say, circling back to that. How could they view it? And we kind of wanted just a public interface or export that we could just give them.
Well, the
I
other
don't
thing,
know if they accepted the PDF or not.
well, the other thing too is if they want to, right? They're a customer. Okay. And
It's
as a
Godola.
customer, you can create a user account for them and have them log in.
Yeah.
If they're that technical and they really want to see it,
want it,
log
do
in.
that.
Here you
Gotcha. JP Gerald, expect that may wind up a step in our Fortify implementation.
Willing to that.
Yeah.
'Cause I know Dodola kind of got real finicky about it, and for whatever reason, even though we gave Eric access, for
Yeah.
whatever reason, they just weren't happy with the
Well, some
way
people
the
you can't make
report.
happy.
Yeah, yeah, fair. Trust, they didn't stay a customer very long.
Yeah. Yeah, it all depends on, because if you're having this conversation with the customer, right, about the journey, that's really that's where you want to stay. You don't want to get technical. You want to talk about the journey, and you want to talk about making them more secure and put boundaries, and then have measurable achievements that are simple and easy to understand. When you do an F1, most customers aren't going to care about the 100 and some odd controls that you just went through, right? They just want to know that they're more secure. And it's like, yeah, I went from a 17% to a 45% or a
Yeah,
75%, right? My identity
they
score just went up 60%. Is that
they
better or
they
not?
they cared, and they cared what some of the controls were.
Yeah.
And
Ex-
before we could even get started with that, like, I straight up gave them a breakdown of their device counts from Entra,
huh?
because they had hundreds of just old devices in
Right.
there, and we were trying to get everything in Entra matched up with the ROM, matched up with Fortify.
Yeah.
And I think
And
it
that's a
was two
separate
or
thing, right?
three emails back and forth between me and their supposed admin.
Uh-huh.
And then Brian came in and was just like, no,
Yeah.
just
No,
cut us
that's not
off.
one, it's not Fortify related. Two, that is just general management cleanup of an environment, right? That is,
And they would not actually work with us even on that step of
yeah.
getting the environment cleaned up. And it was just like, no.
Yeah, that may not be the right customer.
Yep.
um, so anyhow, you've got this ability, right, to give them access into it, um, and do what you want to do it. But does that help the kind of that walking through that journey
Yes.
of
Yeah.
how to engage, right, and how to walk through it? I know it's a little tedious to go between here and enforcer or the tenant, right? You got to typically have two screens going all the time, um, and that's going to make it easier. Right now, our intention is not to put the automation within this platform because we want it just to be as a read-only environment. Keeping up with Microsoft changes these configurations all the time, and Enforcer is a great partner to have for all of this. They're moving very quickly. They're doing a good job of keeping it up. We've got our baseline in there. And so the more that they do, the more that this is going to become easier. And this is more of a project management system than it is anything else.
Hmm.
Um, and one thing that some other MSPs are using this for is now you have the ability to create your own checklists. Okay, like you've got here, these private checklists. And so you can do your own version, right? And then
Mm.
you can assign these to projects and have them.
Right.
So we'll have MSPs that put their onboarding checklist in here or their offboarding checklist in here. And then when they offboard a customer, they just assign it to the customer. And then that way they got one master location, because if you got, let's say you got three onboardings in motion, and all of a sudden you want to change something, right? Something come up in one of the projects. So let's make sure the other projects have that. You come in here, you change it one place, and they all got it instantly.
I know one of the hiccups we also had was the way I want to say cloned or copied the policy alignment. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong, JP. The way we did it, we don't have any of the tags from Enforcer or Fortify
You're not
on
seeing any of these
ours.
tags?
Now we can, but we
Originally,
had
you couldn't. It wasn't a feature until
yeah,
like last August or something like that.
yeah.
I think they told us to go back and recopy the policy alignment.
No, it's a baseline. It's a baseline in the environment.
Right.
And mind you, um uh not everyone at Enforcer, especially the support team, knows that there's a custom baseline.
Baseline. Okay.
Okay. They have to know that it's a Fortify custom, and they may not know. And if they don't know, just pull me into the conversation, and we'll get it taken care of. Because
We
uh,
Yeah, we had a problem with the baseline alignment and the tags when we were trying to go through the alignment comparison.
Oh, that. Oh, yeah. So what happens is, and Entra is not a good example of that. Let's go Exchange. There's our SharePoint. Let's see what we got here. What we can find something. Oh, actually, Entra is a good example of that. Settings. All. So let's find something here.
I know the other thing we're likely going to have to do is standardize the names because I'm sure our customers already got policies that just have randomized names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We tip our we got some MSPs, but they put Fortify in the front of the name of every policy. Um, but what you run into is, and I'm gonna pick one here. This is just a random pick. Actually, we want let's hit the view the policy data. So what happens is with Enforcer is we're gonna say set this setting, and that's one thing, right? That's one item on our checklist. But no, they're bundling all this stuff together, which makes it difficult to map, right? The one
Hmm.
Yeah.
the one for one piece. It's very challenging to map it. One thing that they're doing, and this is relatively new, and let me see if I can find it. Um,
I was hoping changes had already occurred that maybe uh, worked around that issue that we had because it just seemed to be something where, we got in there right in the initial start. None of it was set, none of it was ready.
yeah,
Started rolling with some, and then changes happened.
yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to see where I can find this at. Baselines, deploy, baseline live now.
Because right now, correct me if I'm wrong, JP, I think it is like comparing the baseline. So what
Yeah,
we're
I'm
going to
just
say the
comparing
baseline to
to
what's
Oh yeah,
in
here it is.
there.
Yeah,
to
so
window,
this
no?
is, and then we're talking to Enforcer about this, just the way that they do it. Um, and we'd prefer them to do every configuration as its own item versus bundling them together.
Yeah. Like in
And that
safe
way we could
links.
true that way we
There's a
could
lot.
truly match the item number to the policy, but we can't do
Hmm.
that today. But what you see here, right? This is see they've got here's the individual property
Yeah.
deviations. This is a little bit more powerful, but again, it doesn't match directly to the item number, and that's the challenge. One of the things that we've thought about over here is when you're in the project or in the checklist, um, and this would be challenging to do, but what we've thought about is to say, okay, let's say, let's go down to configuration item. Um, let's say one of these configuration items, right, is a setting, right, for let's go device, like a device setting, um, and you set that setting. One of the things we've been thinking about is if we can map, and this is why we're going through a process right now of pulling all the Graph API pieces for each one of these configuration items, is to add a column in here that would give you an indicator where that one item has actually been set or not by reading the customer's tenant. But we'll have to connect to the customer's tenant to do
Hmm.
that. Okay.
Man, I'm glad y'all are doing that.
We have a lot of these are we have a lot of the Graph API stuff already kind of figured out. Connecting the customer tenant is actually a very easy thing to do. Um, and but what we and part of why we go if you go back to this checklist, part of this project piece, why it's called a project, is because we wanted to tie it to a particular tenant. So what our thought is on this screen we'd add a button here that would say connect to tenant. Okay. Or
Yeah.
even at more granular level, actually have it here connect to tenant. Okay. Just a big orange button up here. You click on that, You authorize read access to the tenant, and then a column appears that tells you all of these configuration settings, whether set or not, for whatever we can see. It's a green or red or green scenario.
Okay. I do like that actually. That way, even if it exists under some random policy,
You can see that it was turned on or not. And then you can just go down the list and go complete, 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 complete.
because otherwise the intent would be, okay, strip any of those random policies. Let's get Fortify policies in there with the actual name.
Yeah,
That way it all lines up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's this is challenging. So here's what we found. Okay, I just want to give you some perspective. Once you get through the first 2 or 3 of these projects, always start with F1 non-user impacting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then go to the user impacting and the business decisions. F1 and F2 can be done simultaneously if you want to. So just pick F1 and F2, non-user impacting, push done. That part's done. And then just start at the top and work your way through all the user impacting stuff and ask the customer the questions. The best way to do it is before the project starts, say, hey, customer, we got 300 controls we're going to go through. Here's some questions we have for you. And ask the questions first, right? And that's why we try to put these questions in here. Just develop a questionnaire, and we want to help with that as much as we can. And that's why we're putting the idea of these customer questions, right? The idea is we're going to have another print questions button, right? Project number, and here's the questions, and you just go ask the questions, and we have all the questions already pre-built. But yeah, start at the top, go through all that, and then move on to the user impacting and the business decisions ones. What we'll find is that once you do a couple of these, and we just did this with Euclid over at Transformative, just in training him, once he got through his first 2 projects, his third project to do F1 was like 6 hours. He was done. And F2 was like, I think 8 hours, and he was done a day. So what will happen is you'll get into emotion, and you'll know, it'll just become part of you. You'll learn it, and you'll just know it, and it will get faster and faster and faster. So we're over time. Any more questions you might have for me, or any feedback?
At the moment, I do not.
Okay. Did you find this helpful?
Yeah, super helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, that one, the one showing the screen, the deployment
Yeah. Good.
process.
So I'll share this with you, and then I'll make sure you've got the access to the transcript and the video and all this, and then please share this with others. Tell them to watch. After hours at home, having a nice beverage and just sit there and watch. At least the first part, not the technical, but the first half, the kind of that customer story at least. Right, that first 30 minutes would be very helpful for them, and then the technical pieces, if they want to watch the technical pieces on the back end, that's fine too. All right, now, so you can reach out to me in Teams. Don't hesitate to reach out to me with chat. I will make sure you each have a Fortify global reader access account to that tenant. Okay. And then if you run into anything, any questions, something's not right, link's not right, how do I answer this question? Just reach out and I'll respond to you as fast as I can.
All right.
All right? Okay, gentlemen. Well, hey, enjoy your weekend.
You too, Mike. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye.